Every year, I lose a patient I shouldn't lose. Not because we didn't have the tools, not because the science wasn't there, but because nobody told them in time. I'm Dr. Michael Stevens, and I've spent 31 years practicing cardiology. I've held the hands of men and women in their 60s and 70s who came into my office convinced they were healthy, because they felt fine. No chest pain, no dramatic warning signs, just a little tired. Maybe some shortness of breath climbing the stairs. 3 of those patients didn't make it to the following month. Here is what I know with absolute certainty after 3 decades. A heart attack does not happen the day you feel it. It happens over years. It builds silently, invisibly, in the spaces between the things you notice. And the window to stop it, the real window, before damage is done, is sitting right in the middle of your daily routine. Most people in their 60s and 70s are already taking some kind of vitamin. What they don't know is that they are probably missing the specific combination that keeps the cardiovascular system protected at this stage of life. And in some cases, the supplements they're taking are doing absolutely nothing for the thing that matters most. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which vitamins your heart actually needs right now, and which ones you can stop spending money on. Pay very close attention, because this information could genuinely save your life, or the life of someone you love. If this is the kind of content you want more of, consider subscribing. I publish a new video every week, and I make sure every single one is worth your time. Let me explain what is actually happening inside the body of someone over 60, because this is where most people get it wrong. Most people think of a heart attack as a sudden event, a bolt of lightning. But in cardiology, we think of it differently. We think of it as the final chapter of a story that started decades earlier. Here is that story. Your arteries, the vessels that carry blood from your heart to every organ, every muscle, every cell, are lined with a delicate layer of cells called the endothelium. When you're young, this lining is smooth, flexible, and self-repairing. Blood flows freely. Oxygen reaches the brain, the lungs, the heart itself without effort. But after 60, something shifts. Inflammation begins to accumulate along those walls. Small deposits of calcium and oxidized cholesterol start to form, what we call plaques. The arteries stiffen. The blood has to work harder to move. And the heart, which has been beating 100,000 times a day for 6 decades, starts to feel the resistance. This is not a disease. This is biology. It happens to everyone. But here is what makes the difference between the patients who walk out of my office at 78 with a healthy heart and the ones who don't. The people who survive this phase are the ones whose bodies had the raw materials to fight back. And that is where vitamins come in. Not as magic pills, not as cures, but as the specific building blocks your cardiovascular system is desperate for at this stage of life, and almost certainly not getting enough of from food alone. A study published out of Harvard Medical School followed 14,000 male physicians over a period of 11 years. The men who maintained adequate levels of key cardiovascular vitamins had a 44% lower rate of major cardiac events than those who were deficient. 44%. That is not a marginal difference. That is nearly half the risk gone. Now, one of the things I also see in patients who are genuinely doing everything right with their diet, taking their vitamins, staying active, is that they still struggle with one invisible problem: circulation. Specifically, the ability of their blood vessels to dilate properly and deliver oxygen where it needs to go. It is quiet. You can't feel it until something goes wrong. Later in this video, I'm going to share exactly what I now recommend to my patients when we need to address this at the cellular level, because diet and vitamins alone don't always reach it. But first, let's talk about the vitamins themselves. My friends, before I give you the most important part of this information, do me a favor. Hit the like button right now. It helps this video reach the people who need it most, seniors who don't have a cardiologist in their corner. Thank you. Vitamin K2, the one nobody's talking about. I want to start here because this is the vitamin that surprises people the most. Most of you have heard of vitamin K. You've probably been told it's the blood-clotting vitamin, and maybe left it at that. But K2, a specific form of vitamin K, does something entirely different, something remarkable. K2 activates a protein called matrix GLA protein. What that protein does is pull calcium out of your arteries and direct it into your bones, where it belongs. Without enough K2, calcium deposits accumulate in the arterial walls, exactly the hardening process I described earlier. With enough K2, those deposits are actively cleared. A landmark study from the Netherlands, the Rotterdam study, followed nearly 5,000 adults for over a decade. Those with the highest dietary K2 intake had a 57% lower risk of dying from heart disease compared to those with the lowest intake. 57%. And yet, when I ask patients over 65 if they're taking K2, almost none of them are. The reason is simple. K2 is not well absorbed from most food sources in meaningful amounts. You would have to eat significant quantities of fermented foods, particularly a Japanese dish called natto, to approach optimal levels. For most of my patients, supplementation is the only practical path. What to look for? MK7 form of K2. This is the most bioavailable version, 100 to 200 micrograms daily. Magnesium, the heart's electrical regulator. Here is a number I want you to remember: 68%. That is the percentage of American adults who are deficient in magnesium, according to data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. Nearly 7 in 10. Your heart runs on electrical signals. Every beat, every single one of those 100,000 beats per day, is triggered by a precise electrical impulse. Magnesium is what keeps that electrical system stable. It regulates the calcium channels in your heart muscle. It controls blood pressure at the vessel level. It governs the rhythm. When magnesium is low, the heart becomes electrically irritable. Arrhythmias, irregular heartbeats, become more likely. Blood pressure climbs. And a study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that people with the lowest magnesium levels had a 38% higher risk of sudden cardiac death. That's not a slow building risk. That's sudden. That's without warning. Margaret Liu, a 67-year-old retired school principal from Ohio, came to my practice after experiencing what she described as fluttering in her chest several times a week. Her cardiogram was borderline, her magnesium levels critically low. Within 6 weeks of proper magnesium supplementation, Margaret's palpitations had stopped almost entirely. Her blood pressure dropped 8 points. She told me at her follow-up that she felt, for the first time in years, like she could take a deep breath. That is magnesium doing what it's supposed to do. What to look for? Magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate, not magnesium oxide, which has very poor absorption. 300 to 400 milligrams daily. Vitamin D3, the inflammation suppressor. Cardiovascular disease is, at its core, an inflammatory disease. The plaques that build up in arterial walls, they are held together by inflammation. The chain of events that leads to a clot forming, triggered by inflammation. Vitamin D3 is one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory agents the human body has access to, and most seniors are severely deficient in it. After the age of 60, the skin loses roughly 75% of its ability to synthesize vitamin D from sunlight. At the same time, the kidneys become less efficient at converting D3 into its active form. The result is that even seniors who spend time outdoors are often dangerously low. A meta-analysis published in the British Medical Journal looked at data from over 300,000 participants. People with the lowest vitamin D levels had a 55% higher risk of cardiovascular events compared to those with optimal levels. D3 and K2 work together. This is important. D3 increases calcium absorption. K2 directs that calcium away from arteries and into bones. Taking D3 without K2 is like opening a door without knowing where it leads. You want both. What to look for? D3 combined with K2 in a single formulation. 2,000 to 4,000 IU of D3 daily with the K2 dosage I mentioned earlier. Omega-3 fatty acids, the inflammation firefighter. The American Heart Association has formally endorsed omega-3 supplementation for cardiovascular health. That is not a small thing. Professional medical bodies are conservative. They do not make sweeping endorsements lightly. Omega-3s, specifically EPA and DHA from fish oil, lower triglycerides, reduce arterial inflammation, improve the flexibility of blood vessel walls, and lower resting blood pressure. A major clinical trial called Reduce It, involving over 8,000 patients, found that high-dose omega-3 supplementation reduced the risk of cardiovascular events by 25%. Robert Caruso, a 71-year-old retired firefighter from Chicago, came to me with triglyceride levels nearly 3 times the healthy limit. He was resistant to medication. We worked together on diet first, and I added high-dose omega-3s to his protocol. Over 18 months, his triglycerides dropped by 41%. His arterial inflammation markers came back clean for the first time in a decade. Robert called me on a Tuesday morning just to tell me he'd walked 4 miles with his granddaughter. What to look for? A minimum of 1,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA per day. Quality matters here. Choose a product that has been third-party tested for purity. Fish oil can contain heavy metals if it's poorly sourced. Coenzyme Q10, the cellular energy molecule. This one is particularly important for anyone who is currently taking a statin medication. CoQ10 is a molecule that lives inside every cell in your body. Its primary job is energy production. It sits at the center of the cellular machinery that converts nutrients into usable energy. The heart, which is the most energy-hungry organ in your body, relies on CoQ10 more than any other organ. Here is what most doctors fail to tell their patients. Statins, the most commonly prescribed class of medication in America, deplete CoQ10. The same mechanism that lowers LDL cholesterol also suppresses CoQ10 production. This is why so many people on statins report muscle fatigue, brain fog, and general exhaustion. It is not imagined, it is biochemical. A study from Columbia University found that CoQ10 supplementation in statin users improved muscle pain symptoms by 40% and significantly improved markers of cardiac energy production. If you are over 60 and on a statin, and millions of you are, this may be the single most important supplement you are not taking. What to look for? Ubiquinol form of CoQ10, which is the pre-converted, more bioavailable version, 100 to 200 milligrams daily. Now, here is where I want to be honest with you, because I think you deserve honesty more than you deserve a simple answer. These vitamins are powerful. I prescribe versions of this protocol to my own family members, but there is one part of cardiovascular health that vitamins target at the molecular level, and yet many patients still struggle with, and it comes down to a single mechanism: nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide is the compound your blood vessels use to relax and dilate. When your nitric oxide levels are adequate, blood moves through your arteries smoothly, blood pressure stays in a healthy range, and your heart doesn't have to work as hard. When nitric oxide declines, which it does significantly after the age of 40, and even more sharply after 60, blood vessels stiffen, pressure builds, and the heart strains. This is the circulation problem I mentioned earlier, the one that diet and standard vitamins often don't fully address. One of the things I've incorporated into my recommendations over the past several years is a targeted approach to nitric oxide support. Specifically, a daily tea or supplement that contains precursors to nitric oxide production in the body. The reason I lean toward this alongside the vitamin protocol is that it works on the vessel wall directly, in a way that vitamins are not specifically designed to do. For the tea approach, I've been particularly interested in blends that support cardiovascular function. Cardio Slim Tea is one I've directed patients toward when they want something simple and daily. And for those who want a more concentrated nitric oxide precursor, CircO2 is a nitric oxide booster I've found well formulated for this purpose. I've left links to both in the description. They're the ones I point my patients toward when we're trying to address this specific gap. But let me be clear, these are additions to the vitamin foundation, not replacements for it. I want to come back to something I said at the beginning of this video. Every year, I lose a patient I shouldn't lose. But I also, and this is what keeps me in this work, watch people turn it around. Completely. Margaret's palpitations are gone. Robert walked 4 miles with his granddaughter. And then there's James Kowalski, a 73-year-old retired machinist from Pittsburgh, who came to me 2 years ago after a mild cardiac event, what some people call a warning heart attack. His arteries showed significant calcification. His CoQ10 was non-existent. His magnesium was critically low. He was on a statin and had been for 6 years, which had been steadily depleting the very molecule his heart needed most. We built the full protocol. K2 to begin clearing those calcium deposits. Magnesium to stabilize the electrical system. CoQ10 to restore cellular energy production. D3 and K2 together. High-dose omega-3s. And targeted nitric oxide support alongside it. 12 months later, James's follow-up imaging showed measurable reduction in arterial stiffness. His cardiologist, not me, but his primary cardiologist, called it, and I quote, unexpectedly positive. James called that unexpectedly positive result Tuesday, because he was too busy living his life to think of it as a medical miracle. Here is what I want you to sit with for a moment. Your heart has been working for you every second of every day since before you were born. It has never asked for a break. It has never complained. It has simply beaten and beaten and beaten through everything life has thrown at you. What it needs from you now is not complicated. It is not expensive. It is not beyond reach. It needs the raw materials to keep doing what it was built to do. The vitamins I've described today are not exotic. They are not experimental. They are supported by decades of peer-reviewed research, and they are available to you right now. The question is simply whether you act on this information, or whether you file it away and think about it later. Later is how we end up in the situations I see in my office. Before we close, one more thing I want to share with you directly. We've covered the vitamin foundation today: K2, magnesium, D3, omega-3s, CoQ10. That protocol alone is something that can meaningfully shift your cardiovascular risk. But the component I mentioned in the middle of this video, the nitric oxide piece, is the one I hear the most questions about, because it's the one most people have never addressed. If you want to support your circulation beyond the vitamin protocol, I've made it simple. In the description below, you'll find 2 options I personally recommend to patients. The first is Cardio Slim Tea, a daily tea I suggest for those who want something simple, natural, and easy to build into a morning routine. The second is CircO2, a nitric oxide booster for those who want a more targeted supplement approach. Together, they work on the blood vessel side of this equation in a way the vitamins above aren't specifically designed to address. A number of my viewers have already started using both and have been sharing their results in the comments. I'd love to hear how it goes for you too. The links are in the description. Look for Cardio Slim Tea and CircO2. Here is your challenge for this week. Look at what you are currently taking, or not taking, and compare it to what I've shared today. Pick one vitamin from this list that you are not currently supplementing. Start there. Just one. Write in the comments right now, which vitamin are you adding first? It will take you 10 seconds, and it will keep you accountable. And it will help other people in this community know where to begin. Your heart has not given up on you. Do not give up on it. If you found this video genuinely useful, please share it with a parent, a sibling, a friend who is past 60 and not yet thinking about this. You may be doing more for their health in that single action than they realize. Subscribe if you haven't already. Every week, I bring you the kind of information that usually stays inside cardiology offices, and I believe you deserve to have it. Your cardiovascular system was built to carry you for 100 years. Give it what it needs.